Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown! Can't get real high. My throat's a little sore, but I am here to record a podcast with you, sir.
And I think everyone appreciates you for joining us. I want to point out to the listeners, this might be somewhat of a milestone in Watch, Review, Repeat history, and that's because I'm drinking beer and Andrew Meadows is not.
Yeah, I'm drinking water.
I think Andrew Meadows might have had a little bit too much to drink on the day before we record this podcast, but
Drank a little much on my name day.
You're making a personal sacrifice to be here to talk about a movie and you know, share your views with the listeners. I mean, we appreciate that. We appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Catch a clear-minded, sober experience this episode. So.
I mean, that's pretty interesting. Like, I mean, if that doesn't hook you, I don't know what will.
Stay tuned for more.
We are talking Halloween this week, and that is Halloween of the 2018 variety, the new sequel. I think the 74th entry to the franchise, if my counting is correct.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about it with you. We had a brief discussion off air last night, kind of a precursor to this, but I've had a little bit of time to sit on it, and I'm excited to flesh out that conversation when we do get it to it just a little bit later on. I wanted to remind our listeners that our Dark Knight Trilogy bonus episode is still available exclusively through Patreon, so just head to watchreviewrepeat.com, click the premium tab, and then click the Become a Patron button to support us on Patreon. It's $2 a month, and you'll get access to bonus episodes like that, bonus episodes like the upcoming Halloween bonus episode that we have coming up soon. Now, let me clarify, it's not a Halloween franchise bonus episode. It is a thematic Halloween episode, as in we're going to be talking some horror movies, and we're not going to give full details on that just yet.
Oh, okay.
But we'll wait till the end of the episode and we can tease maybe some details on it. You know, that way people are, you know, our listeners are like, ooh.
I'm really excited about it, actually.
I too am very excited about that. So I hope that, you know, us being excited about it will get the listeners excited about it, as, you know, by extension. But you know, you'll also get early access to our regular episodes and our undying appreciation. So do you have a fun fact that you would like to relay to our listeners regarding Halloween?
Fun fact. This fun fact is coming from the Hollywood Reporter, and apparently the new Halloween parentheses 2018.
Right, to be distinguished from Halloween parentheses 1978 and Halloween parentheses 2007.
Correct. So Halloween 2018, as it will be known for the remaining of the episode, there was a sequence that they were going to they were going to start with a sequence at the very beginning of the movie, where it picks up immediately after Halloween 1978, or Halloween parentheses 1978, but they only had, I believe it was, they only had 25 days to film the fucking movie.
The whole movie, yeah.
Oh yeah, Halloween parentheses 2018. They filmed it in 25 days. So they had to ditch their initial idea, just because they had to, they were having to recreate a period piece essentially, and then break it all down from on, and then continue shooting, everything that they had planned to shoot. And so they ditched that and went with this, really interesting, fun, intro sequence that we have now, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know if, do you get into it now? I mean, it happens in the very beginning of the movie.
No, we can just tease it for now, and we'll hold off and talk about it when it's a little bit more appropriate when we get into our coverage later on. But yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's interesting that they toyed around with that idea of maybe a more meticulous opening, and the budgetary restrictions just basically kind of held them back. It's worth noting, and again, we'll obviously get into a little bit more, but this is a Blumhouse film, and they're a production company that's kind of notable for their approaches to film with like micro budgets. Get Out was something that they made, super tiny budget, but they've made a lot of horror movies with just these micro budgets, and this is no exception. You think Halloween's a recognizable franchise, and okay, maybe you throw them a little bit of a bone and say, okay, here's $30 million to play around with, but they said no, here's $10 million, which $10 million isn't chump change, obviously, to the layman, but in the terms of Hollywood, in terms of budgeting and stuff like that, that's about as small as budget as you could find for anything that's like not super independent like this. So
sure,
yeah, and maybe it's approach that paid off. We will discuss it soon. Do you have any other points for your fun facts? Is that pretty much the gist of it?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, in that case, do you have any news you'd like to start us off with this week?
I do have some news. I'm a real big fan of BBC's Sherlock. Did you ever watch that?
I watched. I think so they did. They did like I guess like multiple series, and then there was like 2 or 3 like 90-minute episodes per each series. Is that right? If my memory serves
they had
correctly?
a couple little short films, I guess, or not.
Basically,
really,
right?
films,
Yeah,
but...
I think I watched whatever the first 2 series were. So I think it was, I guess, like 4 or 6 of the 90-minute episodes that they did. I don't think I watched. I think they did a 3rd series, and I think that they did like a proper period piece type thing.
They did, yeah.
Sometime
it was like
after that,
a little movie, right?
And I definitely didn't watch that. So I've watched part of it, so I'm familiar with it. I guess
well, the showrunners that gave us that Sherlock series, which is Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat, they are doing a Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Ooh.
And it's going to be a period piece. And that sounds really freaking exciting. I'm kind of really interested to see how they what their spin on it is. So there's that little bit of news for everyone.
That's pretty cool. Does it? Do you know if? I don't know if you're looking at the article or anything for that. Do you know if they're trying to do like a similar type approach with it, with like the 90-minute type episodes or anything like that? Don't mean to put you on the spot, but it might not say. Yeah, so you're welcome to answer.
I do know that it's going to be a co-production of BBC One and Netflix.
Okay.
And so presumably it would be like a Nope, I don't have another series with BBC. Yeah, it doesn't say. It does say it's going to be a series though. So
okay,
it's not going to be a like a one-shot movie or anything. But it's exciting nevertheless. What kind of news you got for us, man?
Well, I guess the first bit of news that I would like to talk about is I actually want to talk about something that we didn't get a chance to talk about last week, and that's a movie called Knives Out. So this is a movie that is going to be written and directed by Rian Johnson, who some of our listeners might recognize, and you might recognize as the writer and director of Star Wars The Last Jedi, which is either the best movie ever made or the worst movie ever made, depending on where you look on the internet. So you pick. Yeah, he's doing basically an original movie, and this is before he presumably takes on that Star Wars trilogy that he is, as of now, still set to write and direct or produce or whatever he's actually going to be doing for Lucasfilm. And it's said that it's going to be a contemporary version of the Locked Door Mansion murder mystery inspired by like Agatha Christie type murder mystery novels, which sounds intriguing. He's a very strong writer, very strong director, so I'm curious to see what his take on that sort of thing would be. But what really gets me excited about this project is the cast that this man has assembled. One of the most ridiculous casts, I think, that you can have in a movie. So, to begin with, Daniel Craig was attached. He was kind of one of the first actors attached to this, and, it's fucking James Bond, enough said. Then he brings in Chris Evans, Captain fucking America. And then he brings in Lakeith Stanfield, who was fucking amazing in Sorry to Bother You, which we covered earlier this year. He's great in Atlanta. He's on there. Michael Shannon, Shape of Water. God, he's been in so many things that he's fucking phenomenal in. He's in. Ana de Armas from Blade Runner 2049. She's in. And then Don Johnson. Fucking Don Johnson's in this shit,
the
man. Don. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care what kind of movie Rian Johnson wants to make. If he can assemble that sort of cast, if like they're looking at that script and saying I'm in, then fuck yeah, I'm in. So without any sort of real plot details, I'm just like, holy shit, like.
And they're bringing in the same director of cinematography from Star Wars.
Oh, one-upping me with your knowledge of this movie.
That's it, man. And the Looper.
That sounds pretty dope. Okay, yeah. I assume they've probably got some sort of chemistry.
They work well together,
Yeah, I would say so. So I'd say that sounds pretty awesome. I'm not sure if there's I guess it looks like it's set to start production in November of this year, so I would say probably maybe a late 2019 release date. But looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing what Rian Johnson brings out after Star Wars. I'm also somewhat looking forward to the internet response to something like this, because it's going to be a shit show one way or another. But no, I am legitimately looking forward to this. So that's one thing I have. Do you have any other pieces of news you're excited about?
I got a couple. I got one I'm not so excited about.
Oh, okay. One you're not so excited about. We can talk about it. We can talk about
it. Yeah. So continuing the Thanos snap, Netflix has pushed Luke Cage out of existence. It was canceled. No more Luke Cage.
Are we sure that this is a result of Thanos?
I'm assuming so. I have not heard otherwise.
I mean, he's not the first hero for hire to get the axe, as we discussed, I guess, on our last episode. That
no more Danny Rand, and now no more Luke Cage.
Yeah, I gotta say, we had a brief conversation about Iron Fist, and I think I expressed surprise by the move, and you were kind of just like, I mean, it's Iron Fist. Like, let's be honest.
If you're gonna cancel one,
right? And, and I kind of conceded that argument. But are you surprised by this move?
Yeah, seems kind of strong to cancel one and then a week later cancel another one.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I kind of conceded on. Iron Fist, kind of based on the way it started and just kind of the general lack of response to it, which was overall, I would say, fair. And we are still going to talk about the recent seasons of the latest in Marvel and Netflix very soon. But I mean, this is a show that broke Netflix when season 1 came out. Like, it crashed Netflix. Like, that wasn't that long ago. Like, it just seems crazy. I mean, it's not like this show's been on for 10 seasons and the interest has dwindled so much. I mean, I'm sure that it cost a decent amount to make, and there's other kind of legal entanglements. Maybe Marvel's trying to pull back some of these characters, maybe. But I just find it shocking that something like Luke Cage actually got the axe.
Right?
Especially now that there's really not. I talked about they should just cancel both of them, make Heroes for Hire, and combine them. But so, from what I've seen, there hasn't been really any indication that is something that's going to happen. Like, this doesn't seem like let's do what's best for the network. Let's do what's the best for these characters. It's more like
we're just going to save the money.
It's partly that, but it seems like there's some real behind the scenes, just like we wanted to make this happen, but we just couldn't. So I'm not sure if Deadline was the original source on this. Yes, they were. It says exclusive in their article, so I'm assuming that it was. But yeah, I mean, it literally says this axing of Luke Cage came as a surprise, quote unquote, within the article, and it talks about creative differences and inability for the parties involved to reach a deal on how to move forward. Like, I think they were trying to go from 13 episodes to 10, which I think probably would be a good move, honestly.
Right.
But then someone wasn't happy with the scripts that had been submitted, and there's just some weird back and
fuckery.
forth,
Yeah.
you know, and it seems crazy to me that, like, instead of like trying to work it out, they just said, you know, fuck it, we're not doing it. Like, that seems like a pretty definitive kind of response to you know, some sort of differences. But I don't know. We'll talk about it soon. You know, about kind of maybe the landscape of kind of what Marvel Netflix looks like, kind of beyond the upcoming shows that they have in production. Jessica Jones is filming, Punisher is filming, or I think has finished filming. So those will both be set for a 2019 release date. But I honestly don't know what the landscape looks like beyond those two releasing next year. So
they just might run each of these things out, and that would be that. You know, maybe they'll pick a big group of other characters, maybe. Right.
You know, when the Iron Fist announcement came out, it was just kind of like, well, it's Iron Fist. They can just kind of fold them into other shows. But now it kind of just seems like maybe there's a little bit more trouble in paradise than they let on with that first announcement. But I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll have to just kind of wait and see how things play out with it. I mean,
maybe they're going to cycle these characters out, and maybe Disney's platform will pick some heroes up and start making some live action stuff.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know what kind of Marvel owns these characters, but I don't know if there's some sort of weird contractual thing where Netflix, you know, has some sort of ownership over the particular shows or something like that. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it plays out. But I don't know. I thought this was a bit of a bummer.
Speaking of, I don't mean to cut you off. I can pick up on a pretty good segue for my other news right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll probably go on for another 10 minutes, but it's not appropriate to do so because we'll talk about this again very soon. So yeah, please pick up the torch.
Segueing to Disney properties and contracts and everything else. Guillermo del Toro is set to direct a stop-motion animated Pinocchio film for Netflix, and maybe you can shed some insight on this. But for some reason, I always thought that Pinocchio was a Disney property. Is it not?
You know, I thought it was too, but maybe I don't know. You've got me in a bit of a bind. I'm not sure. I was thinking that it was as well, but it's possible that Disney just made a movie based off of like some sort of source material that's free access or common access, or
is that what
whatever.
it is? Okay,
I don't know. I'd have to kind of look up the details on that. But yeah, it does. Yeah, it does seem like an interesting move. Yeah, because there obviously must be some sort of way to tell that story without Disney's involvement. Otherwise, yeah, that wouldn't seem like it would be on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But I mean, either way, it's a Del Toro film. It's going to be a musical set in Italy during the 1930s. I think that Del Toro is very passionate about the source material. He says there's a deep personal connection to Pinocchio in the story. So, like all Del Toro movies, I'm real excited about it. Especially something like a stop motion film. It's going to be really interesting. See his take on that.
Yeah, every stop motion film. I mean, just the amount of artistry put on display is just absolutely fucking insane.
And you sprinkled Del Toro in there.
I did a quick Googs, by the way, and The Adventures of Pinocchio is a children's novel. Looks like it was published in 1883, so it goes back a few years, but it is in the public domain, which was the terms that I was looking for in my brain, but couldn't quite get there. So yeah, that means that pretty much anyone can basically use the character and the story and kind of do their own take on it. So like Dracula's another one, like Bram Stoker's Dracula's in the public domain. That's why you can have like 85,000 Dracula movies
from all over the place. It doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. So anything that's kind of in the public domain is basically fair game to make any sort of adaptation of. So that would definitely kind of fill in the gaps that we were looking for. I somehow did not know that. Seems like a weird piece of trivia that would stick in my brain as with all the other weird pieces of trivia that stick in my brain instead of the things I actually need to know. But yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, Del Toro is a fucking phenomenal director. I think didn't we just have a conversation? I don't think it was on the air. If it was, I don't remember it being on the air. And we do talk outside the podcast.
I think we were IMDbing. I was fucking all over the IMDb's, I think is what it was. And I think, you know what it was? I think we were maybe, we were talking about potential bonus episodes. That's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah, I think we had a night where we were working on some art for summer future episodes and just kind of brainstorming some ideas for bonus episodes. And I think it eventually came to this. I think maybe we were talking about Del Toro as part of that, and then you mentioned like, well, wasn't Del Toro supposed to direct a Pinocchio movie? And I'm like, yeah, but it got canceled like every Del Toro project in existence ever. So it's funny that the story takes a turn here and. Shit. I mean, until this movie comes out, like actually on Netflix, let's not discount the possibility that it doesn't actually happen because again, it is Del Toro. It wouldn't be the first time that he's been attached to a project that did not happen. But
it seems to happen a lot to the poor guy.
If it does happen, that would be awesome. Like I said, it was kind of funny that this story came up.
Like immediately
only
after.
Days, yeah, right. after we kind of talked about it, and I was just like, yeah, not happening, very flippantly, but Netflix sure told me.
You got any other news for this week, man?
I do. I have a couple pieces of news I'd like to close out our little news section with here, and they both pertain to DC Comics.
Oh yeah.
So actually, I'm gonna give you an element of choice here. Do you want to talk about DC on the film side of things first, or do you want to talk about DC on the television side of things first? I'll give you a free rein here.
Let's start out with the television. Just because I think we probably enjoyed the television more than we've enjoyed the movies.
So you're gonna save worse for last, is what you're saying?
Worse for last, yeah.
All right. Very well then. The decision has been made. So on the TV side of things, we have some details concerning the upcoming CW-verse, Arrowverse crossover titled Elseworlds. So we talked about this when they debuted the first look at Ruby Rose's Batwoman. But we've gotten some other very intriguing details about what this crossover is going to look like. And what I mean by that is they showed us a poster from it in which Stephen Amell is dressed up as the Flash and Grant Gustin is dressed up as the Green Arrow. Now, for those who don't know the actors' names, that is the opposite of their typical roles within their respective shows. So Stephen Amell is Green Arrow within Arrow, and Grant Gustin is the Flash within Flash. So there's some fuckery going on here, and that
they look a little funny.
Characters have changed suits, and they do look a little funny. Obviously, there's kind of just the bias in your mind of like that's not how it's supposed to be. But these are two people that have very different like kind of body types. Like Stephen Amell is a pretty jacked dude, so you put him in like this Flash suit. It looks like almost like they didn't resize the suit for him properly, so he's just like really uncomfortably tight on him. And Grant Gustin's he's a skinnier guy, still muscular. Don't get me wrong, but not quite the salmon ladder type strength I would think that a Stephen Amell type possesses. I think he looks less goofy in the Green Arrow suit than Stephen Amell looks like in the Flash suit.
Yeah, no, Stephen Amell looks totally out of place.
Like the Arrow suit's a little bit baggy. It's kind of got that leathery look, and then with Flash they switch to more of a spandexy type look. So it's really accentuating the body. But I got to tell you, man, I have no idea what the fuck this crossover is supposed to look like. I mean, it's insane. Like we've got this going on, we got Batwoman we know that's coming in, and just the day that we're recording this, Stephen L. put something up on his Twitter, a nice little picture of him in a very tight Flash costume, Grant Gustin in his now Green Arrow costume, Melissa Benoist in her traditional Supergirl costume, looking very cool as always, and very interestingly, John Wesley Shipp in the Flash costume from the 1990s television show from CBS. So John Wesley Shipp has been in the Flash show as Barry's dad, as the Flash's dad, and we've actually seen him dress up as Jay Garrick Flash but we've never seen him as the 90s Flash. I think there was a very brief point where Flash traveled through time and we saw like a very, very brief flash of like the 90s Flash, like indicating that, oh shit, it's like a separate universe within this big multiverse that this universe kind of has. There's a lot of universe words in there. It's very confusing. But I'm looking at this and we've seen Tyler Hoechlin is going to be in this as Superman. We've seen him in a black suit as Superman. And I'm just like, what the flying fuck is happening here? I legitimately have no idea, and that's actually kind of exciting. Like it could just be a massive clusterfuck as it looks, but presumably there's a story reason for why all this crazy shit is happening, right?
Well, I don't know, man. It's the CW. Sometimes shit does get a little hairy.
You're not wrong, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I already talked about it when we got the Batwoman look, but. I don't know, man. I think
gonna hop back on the train.
I think I'm gonna hop back on the train, dude. I think I got to do it. Like I gotta know what is happening here, and I feel like I wouldn't be really doing myself an injustice. I'd probably actually be doing just the opposite if I just watched this as like its own separate thing. But there's that completionist part of my brain that's just like, no, dude, you can't just like skip. Like, basically a season's worth of material and just jump right to this. Like you gotta be there for the full ride, I feel. So, that's my tentative plan. Our listeners will soon find out, over probably the course of the next month or two, whether or not I actually follow said
whether or not
plan,
you embark on it.
Yeah, but we'll see, man. You know what? They're usually fun, and I think that if I'm like working towards like a goal instead of just like it feeling like a perfunctory, like, oh, I'm so used to watching this that I should be watching this. Like if I'm like, oh, I want to see what happens next, like that gives a little bit more incentive, I think, to watching it, and maybe that will kind of guide me through it. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, good luck, man. I do not intend to get
Godspeed.
down. Yeah, I don't intend to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, I don't blame you. I don't blame anyone for hopping off the train, but I'm willing to hitch a ride, shall we say?
What about this DC movie news, man? Do you find it equally as exciting?
I don't. No, I don't think I find it equally exciting. I had to think about that for a second. I'm like, no, not really. So actually quite a bit of shuffling around, and some possible, repercussions for the universe in general. So, first thing that we heard was that the Flash movie, which has been delayed like 17 times already, has been delayed yet again. It sounds like they're supposed to be filming next year now, like late next year, late 2019 for 2021 release date. And this is to accommodate Ezra Miller's busy schedule. He's in the Fantastic Beasts franchise, and it sounds like he's going to be filming the third installment prior to filming The Flash, assuming that this movie actually gets made at some point. They've lost 3 directors, I think, so far. They lost Lord Miller, who were the first directors on Solo. They lost Seth Grahame-Smith, who did, I think, the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter movie, which was real shit. And then they lost Rick Famuyiwa, who we talked about recently, who's directing an episode of The Mandalorian, the Star Wars show. And I don't even know who the fuck's attached to it at this point. I legit have no idea if they have a director right now, but I don't know. It's not going to film for a while. Hopefully it doesn't film ever, at least in its current iteration, but we'll see. Probably the more pressing delay of a movie that's actually been shooting is that Wonder Woman 1984 has been delayed.
What's that about?
It will no longer arrive in November 2019. It's instead been pushed to June 5th, 2020, so about a 6-month delay.
Damn.
I don't really know what the deal is. I don't know that there's any like obvious logic to this move, other than they just think it might play better during the summer instead of, November. Kids are in school and all that. So that's kind of I don't really see any other real basis for this because, obviously there's some extra time for reshoots, effects works to be done and stuff like that, which is all well and good, but it's been filming for a while. I mean, it was filming long enough that they showed something off for this at, I think, San Diego Comic-Con, which was in July. So it's not like, it's got to be done filming, I would think, by the end of the year. So that's got to be a year plus post-production, which, I mean, like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just an odd kind of thing, I would think.
I'm giving them all the time they fucking need to make a good movie. I don't give a shit. Just make it good.
That's the bottom line, right?
That's it.
Yeah. But I think the interesting thing is that so per the Variety article that kind of talked about that flash delay, there's just like a little blurb in here that's it's kind of a big fucking deal. And I don't think we actually talked about part of this, which kind of the news on this broke a while back. There's a blurb in here. Let me read this. The studio is not currently moving forward with Batman and Superman movies featuring Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, respectively. It is expected to recast The Dark Knight with a different actor for director Matt Reeves' upcoming Batman solo outing. Doesn't have anything more about Henry Cavill, but I think there was a Hollywood Reporter article a few weeks back basically saying that Cavill was out as Superman. And this is kind of what, I mean, there's been rumors for like the past year that Affleck would be out as Batman.
Right.
But this seems like the first like reliable trade that's just like straight up like, yeah, he's just not going to do it. Again, not surprising, I would say, certainly on the Affleck side of things because of that history, but for it to kind of just be buried in this article, and this is about the flash delay, this article.
So it's a Flash article, and then they just bury in there that Affleck and Cavill are done as their respective characters?
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's literally the last paragraph in the article. It sounds like a pretty tumultuous time, I would say, for DC. I mean, it's not really surprising in the sense that, like,
maybe they're just resetting.
Their shared universe has failed spectacularly. So yeah, I mean, maybe even that Wonder Woman delay kind of ties into that in the sense of like, let's reframe this as a movie that's maybe less connected to the broader universe and just kind of make it strictly a sequel
that might be pretty
to
logical.
Wonder Woman.
Right.
Like let's not worry about any big connections. Just maybe that's speculation, but yeah. I mean, especially with the Joker movie and all those extras pissing on the subways and all that good stuff. Like maybe DC's just going back to square one with their approach to movie making and just saying, let's just make a good movie, maybe if we're capable of such things.
Right. Might want to let the extras have bathroom breaks, though. That might be appropriate.
Well, especially if you don't want to get sued. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, I guess it seems like the whole idea to copy the MCU template has been a failure. I think that's pretty undisputed, regardless of your opinion on the universe as a whole. Whether you're a big Zack Snyder defendist and apologist, like it's all well and good, but Justice League was a pretty big failure in the scope of everything. So. Yeah, I think the reset, but I mean, I would still hit the full reset button personally, if I was running DC, but it seems like they're less concerned with let's reset it and make a new universe instead of just like, we'll just kind of just do what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, even if they just make good, like, independent character piece movies, they don't all need to be connected. Like, I mean, you don't need that template. Just make good fucking movies. That's it.
Right, and of course we still have Aquaman and Shazam that do seem to be part of that universe, so it's kind of an awkward position.
Is Shazam part of the universe, though?
I mean, if the trailer was any indication, there was a lot of references to Batman and Superman, so
I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay, I can't remember, I'm sorry.
But, yeah, either way, I think that, the movie's already basically made at this point, so, you just kind of put it out as is and just, retool things, as you develop them. Yeah, right. So, DC, just crushing it, Well, it's all I brought to the table this week in terms of news. So,
that's not all bad news, though. I don't. That DC news isn't. I mean, aside from having to wait 6 months for Wonder Woman. I personally am up for all sorts of fucking DC reset. So
yeah,
I don't find that
I think if they're reframing their future, then That's not a bad thing.
Give me a couple years with no Batman, no Superman, and no Flash, and come back to the table with something new. I'm up for that. I like the IPs.
I mean,
so
it's not like the MCU hit the ground running with their heavy hitters.
It's true.
I mean, I don't think anyone considers Iron Man and the Hulk to be their heavy hitters, so could work. So I think we can move into some of the main content for this episode, and I think we might be able to sneak a little bit of a double feature in here. We've been doing double features for our past couple episodes, so I was thinking maybe we'd have a little discussion of Halloween parentheses 1978 before we got into Halloween parentheses 2018. What do you think about that?
I think it sounds pretty good. You know what's awesome too is
what's that?
You don't really need to change the art for the for the episode. Yeah.
Yeah, it's appropriate. It's definitely appropriate for both.
That's it.
And I have no intention of changing it. We're sticking to our guns, man. So, Halloween 1978 came out 40 years ago. Directed by John Carpenter, written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, starring Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Nick Castle. 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night 1963, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield to kill again. So this movie's been out for 40 years. We're going to do full spoilers for the 1978 film. Don't confuse this for the new one. But we're not going to get super in depth with this. I just wanted to get a sense of where you were with the original film, kind of walking into seeing the new movie. And just any general thoughts you had on the film itself, and again, spoilers are fair game here.
So I have, as you may or may not know, I grew up in a pretty strict house.
I did know that,
and if it was on TV, it was usually fair game. And AMC has a I don't know if it's like 30 Nights of Halloween or 30 Nights of Horror or whatever it is, but they play Halloween movies like for the entire month of October. At least that's the way it used to be. And so I'm very familiar with these old horror movies, at least a fair majority of them. And I've seen Halloween parentheses 1978 several times, and I always remember it fondly. It's I don't know if thematically it's the same kind of thing, but it's fair to say that this is one of like the original slasher flicks, yeah?
No, yeah, definitely. This is the movie that kind of created, I think, the template moving forward, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, like those movies are 100% influenced by what Halloween did. Yeah. And slasher in general, like, I mean, it's crazy. Like, you rewatch this movie and you see all kind of the blueprints that so many movies since have basically just utilized. And it's not surprising, I would say, why they would utilize it, because it's so successful with a lot of those elements. So I guess let me ask you this as well. Did you rewatch this prior to watching the new one?
I did.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I did too. I'll just speak for a minute here. I say rewatch, but this might hurt my my horror movie credibility a little bit, but I don't know that I've seen this movie in its entirety ever in my life.
Oh, wow.
I definitely know a lot of the touchstones from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of stuff that, like, I'd either just watched this when I was young and didn't remember a lot of it, but there was so much of this that I just could not, I didn't, like, remember a decent amount of this movie. Like, all the Michael Myers stuff, like, I'd seen, maybe it's just from, like, YouTube compilations and stuff like that, and, like, I feel kind of embarrassed for myself in a way, and I'm just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't admit this.
Well, it's kind of one of those movies where, like, I mean, I keep using the same word again. It's going to be one of those episodes, but thematically, a lot of these things are present, so it almost kind of like through osmosis. Maybe you did watch the whole thing, but you've caught essentially the same scene over and over again through different movies to where it almost all blends together. You know what I mean? At least that's the way it is with me when I watch this or Friday the 13th or something like that. You know what I mean? Who was doing the killing in that scene? I can't remember. You know, they all kind of blend together with those tropes and stuff. But It's a really good movie. I think it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, and just kind of touch on what you said, the osmosis idea. I think that's a good way of putting it, because you and I, not too long ago, well, actually, it's been a long time, in our youth, we made some short films, some horror short films.
Definitely.
And each of us kind of took like creative direction on like one of these movies that we did. And the one that I took creative direction on was something that we called Smile. And I'm sure you remember making this.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah. Same.
But the crazy thing is, when I was rewatching this movie, I was instantly reminded of making that with you. And it was it the scene there when he was a kid behind the mask and he grabs a knife? Yes, just that whole opening sequence was just like, the sensibilities there were exactly the sensibilities that we had in making that. And so, like, it's crazy to me that I'm like, I don't really remember a lot of this movie itself, but it's clear that there was so much that had been probably lifted wholesale from this movie and the movies that I did probably watch and remember, like, in making that style of, movie making had been kind of translated elsewhere, and then, I absorbed that. And that was kind of like, this is how it should be. This is the way it's supposed to be. And like, I just found that like super fascinating. Like, it was just kind of like a weird kind of surreal moment, honestly, like watching that. I'm like, holy fuck. Like I don't remember this, but like, this is the thing. This is the thing that we did. Like, how is that possible? How, I don't know. It kind of just blew my mind when I was just watching
40
it.
years ago in Hollywood, maybe we would have had a career for ourselves.
See, but at the same time, I don't think it's because we were directly inspired. I think it's because we were indirectly inspired, and I think that's just because this movie basically, like I said, kind of set the blueprint, and we'd probably watched all the movies that had used the blueprint and kind of stuff like that. So anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, just the actual movie making here is just really, really impressive. And like, I think that the strongest thing about this movie is that it's just a simple film. Like, it's just a very simply made, but there's a beauty to the simplicity of this film. Like, we can wax philosophical about kind of the influence that this movie had on the slasher genre, on horror in general and stuff like that. But within the scope of the movie itself, I think that it's got a lot of really strong storytelling beats, and I think that that's just because it doesn't try to do too much, and that's a pitfall of some movies. But it's just, there's Michael Myers. He's just pure evil. He's described multiple times as pure evil. He escapes. Basically, Laurie and the kid, whatever the kid's name is, they go up to the family home, and they cross paths, and then basically just the whole movie is just Michael methodically kind of stalking them and then just kind of brutally murdering people. Not that many overall. But
it's interesting how he's portrayed as pure evil, and everybody he kills is teenagers doing questionable shit.
Right, yeah, there's definitely an element of the promiscuous behavior and all that, yeah. Which I think John Carpenter himself has kind of refuted that interpretation of like, he's, that's why he's doing it. But at the same time, I mean,
I just think it's interesting that Jamie Lee Curtis's character is the one, like, everybody's almost like collateral damage, essentially, as he pursues her. You know what I mean? He's constantly trying to. So it seems like he's constantly trying to fucking kill her, and I think that much is evident in the maybe I shouldn't talk about that yet, but I think she's target number one, unless he's just aimlessly. Did you interpret him aimlessly killing everybody?
No, I think that especially in the Halloween parentheses 1978, he's very much focused on Laurie. I would say as kind of his principal target, and like I said, that like there's almost she's goody two shoes.
Yeah,
although
very good.
she smokes a little weed, which I don't know. But
I don't know. What's that guy's name in fucking Office? What's he say about weed? Good people don't smoke weed. Fuck. Who's that?
Is it Michael Scott?
No, not Michael Scott. That fucking other guy. The old guy. Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Is that Mr. Jeff Sessions you're talking about?
Yeah, Mr. Jeff Sessions.
Jeff Beauregard Sessions, Attorney General of the United States of America.
Yeah. Good people do not smoke marijuana.
It's a pretty good impression. They should get you on SNL for that.
Anyway.
Yeah, she has perhaps her faults, if you wanted to frame it as such, but she definitely doesn't seem, they definitely kind of separate her from the behavior of the other of her I guess her friends in the movie, yeah, but.
So you kind of have like goody two shoes versus pure evil, and that's what I was kind of alluding to.
Right? Yeah. I mean, just or simplified good versus evil.
Right.
Right. So.
That's So I think it's a very straightforward, easy concept. I think it's done really well. It has probably one of the most memorable of any slasher horror movie soundtrack. I think it's probably definitely one of the most memorable for sure. And I think they expand on that in a really exciting way in Halloween parentheses 2018. I happen to really enjoy the music in this one or in the new one. Yeah, dude, it's a fucking good movie. If you haven't seen the Halloween parentheses 1978 before, catch that shit. You probably catch it on AMC.
Maybe. I think it's... Actually, I don't know if it's on any of the streaming services, but...
It is. Halloween parentheses 1978 is on...
Shudder?
Shudder.
There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't have any excuses. So, definitely highly recommended. And it sounded like you were... jonesing to get into some Halloween parentheses 2018, so I think that that's an appropriate time to do so.
Yeah.
So Halloween parentheses 2018 is directed by David Gordon Green. It's written by Jeff Bradley, Kenny fucking Powers McBride, and David Gordon Green. Stars yet again Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, Andy Matichak, and Nick Castle reprising his role as the Shape, or Michael Myers. So, 40 years after his killing spree in 1978, Michael Myers escapes from captivity again, setting up a final confrontation with Laurie Strode. And a couple notes about the box office here, because I think that it's definitely something noteworthy. $77.5 million on its opening weekend, riding its way to a $91.8 million worldwide total for its weekend. Those are some really, really strong numbers, specifically domestically. It's easily the franchise record, the Halloween franchise record. And for reference, the previous record holder was the... Halloween parentheses 2007, which was a reboot directed by Rob Zombie that debuted at $26.3 million. So that's an increase of $50 million in one weekend, which is probably, honestly, more than what that movie grossed in its entire domestic run. It's the second largest R-rated horror opening ever, behind its debut last September, and it's the number 2 opening ever in October. Unfortunately, it fell just a few $1 million short of Venom, which debuted earlier this month. It was this close to snatching that record away from it within a span of a few weeks, and early projections had it there, but it didn't quite have the legs to make it there. I was hoping.
I should have seen it twice. This is much more deserving.
Should have thrown the AMC pass at it 3 times just to make a difference, but alas, probably would not have been enough. But Halloween parentheses 2018, it's a direct sequel to Halloween parentheses 1978. It says fuck the 72 other Halloween films that were made in between this one and the other one, and it says we're gonna do something a little bit more back to basics. We're gonna make something that's a little bit more of a personal story that's really kind of tied very specifically to what John Carpenter did with that first film. So, from a non-spoiler perspective, how'd you feel about Halloween parentheses 2018?
Halloween parentheses 2018 was I want to preface this with I've been watching a lot of horror movies here recently, and this is I thought it was really freaking good. I a lot of times I think horror movies just maybe they just set out to they don't necessarily set out to tell a story, maybe not well anyways. They put the scare in front of everything else, and that's not the case with this one. I think it's shot really well. I think it's got a simple but compelling story. I think that the score is awesome. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the way it was shot. I think it's a beautifully shot movie. I thought that some of it may have been a little contrived, but I found the characters interesting. I thought the humor was... I enjoyed the humor in it. I laughed quite a bit, especially at one character in particular. I don't know. Overall, I had a really good time with it. What about you, man? What'd you think?
So, again, I know we had a brief conversation about it before we recorded this, and I feel like I came off a little overly harsh about it. I don't think that I imparted the idea that I enjoyed this movie a whole lot, and I feel like that's somewhat misleading. I will say that I think as the movie itself goes, that I think it's pretty solid. I liked it. I didn't love it. I think that it's pretty good for the genre. I agree that horror, for whatever reason, is just a difficult nut to crack, and most attempts at it have failed. And I think that's just kind of due to a reliance on, I think, the wrong idea of what horror should be. There's an over-reliance upon jump scares and less focus, I think, paid to making a good story and a good movie first and foremost, and just more like, the fucking 12-year-olds are going to shit themselves when this happens. think that seems to be a lot of the approach for some reason, and less about what Halloween parentheses 1978, what The Exorcist, what Alien, what these kind of movies did to scare the shit out of people. And yeah, okay, right. It was a different time in which movies were made differently, pacing was different, and the things that were depicted, aren't easily, they weren't as easily depicted as they were today. But I think that sort of methodology makes a lot more sense for a horror telling. I appreciate a horror movie that is a little bit more deliberate in its pacing and a little bit more, less in your face about it. I think The Witch is a good example of a movie that's kind of unnerving.
Yeah,
it's a less is more type approach.
It's atmospheric.
And this one, I wouldn't say that this is a less is more approach. I mean, it's definitely a slasher movie, don't get me wrong. But I think that this is still largely fundamentally in line with the first Halloween movie, Halloween parentheses 1978, to clarify. And I think that that's for the best. I think that where this movie falters for me is that it almost did a little bit too much, and I think that it would have benefited from something closer to the simplicity of the original. And I don't think that making a carbon copy is a good idea. I've never thought that you should make the same movie again, but I think that where this movie did try to differentiate itself, it ran into some trouble. But at the same time, there's some story elements of this that were kind of expansions and natural extensions of what happened in the first movie, and I thought those were really strong beats. I just felt like some of the stuff where it tried to kind of duplicate some stuff from the original, it tried to add some gotcha twists with it, and it was just kind of no, that's real dumb, yo. We'll get into it in spoilers, but I also wanted to make a mention of the fact that I had one of the worst theater experiences I've probably had in a good while while watching this film, and I honestly do think that somewhat marred my experience of this film. So it's entirely possible that I would have enjoyed this film more under better circumstances, but I just...
Was it packed?
Yeah, it was a sold-out theater. I went Saturday night of opening weekend, and I will say, horror movies on opening weekend, you should walk into a theater expecting a level of audience participation, of audience reactions that, if you want like the most pristine theater experience or cinema experience,
last week it's available.
That, or like go Wednesday at like 11 in the morning or some shit like that, when you're less likely to have a bunch of assholes and kids and stuff in the theater. So I
tell us about your theater experience. I'm interested.
Right, and I'm just prefacing this. I expect again a level of that participation of people, really kind of, enjoying the film and being into the film, and I think that that's actually sometimes beneficial to watching a horror movie in the theaters. One of my favorite theater experiences of all time is the Friday the 13th reboot that they did. I want to say 2009. I saw that opening weekend. It wasn't expecting to see the movie. I got off work. I worked at a movie theater at the time and just literally slid into one of the shows, watched it, and the audience was eating that shit up. But they were respectfully eating that shit up. That whole movie has like a 15-minute fake out at the beginning, and then like people were not expecting that, and there was just a really audible audience reaction. But it wasn't like a distracting reaction. It was just like people were just really, really into it. When something happened, there would be an audible reaction, but not distractingly so. And that's kind of like, I'm like, that's like the perfect type of movie for that type of audience. Like, I think if you're watching like a super serious drama and people are like really audibly reacting, you're kind of just like,
what are you doing?
Maybe take a step back or whatever. So I think that, I think you expect something like that, especially on an opening weekend like this. But I did not get that experience duplicated. It was just fucking shit show everywhere I turned. So I think the front right corner of the theater, there was a group of kids that obviously had no business being in a rated R film, that just decided to have their own conversation for basically the duration of the film.
Oh man.
And not like a reacting to the movie kind of conversation, just like we're just hanging out because we're 12 and we're friends kind of thing.
Dicks.
And I'm like, I've been there in my life, where I've been part of a group that's just talkative.
We've never been there in the movie theater.
I've never been the person talking in a theater like that because I know better, but I've been part of groups that have been kind of obnoxious like that. And so I get that kind of mentality of just like, that's the thing you do, is you just go to the theater and hang out with your friends. But, when you're looking at the other fucking, 75 people sitting behind you or 100 people sitting behind you, whatever it is, like, you gotta there's a moment of like self-reflection you should have where you're just like, I could just have this conversation literally anywhere else in the world and be fine. But that moment of self-reflection was not experienced by this group of people, and the theater staff didn't give a flying fuck, so they didn't do anything to intervene. And it wasn't just that. There was a guy next to me that had a text conversation at full brightness for basically the entire film, and it was just kind of like, dude, like, come on, like, if you want to check your phone every now and then, like, it sucks, but whatever, I can get over it. But like, at least turn your shit on like fucking like low brightness. Like, I swear it was it's not even like it, like just like it's bright because the theater was dark. It was like, no, I think literally it was set at max brightness. Like, it was so fucking distracting. And the guy 2 seats away from me was like yelling at people to shut the fuck up. And I was just, but then it was, the people in the corner were just getting rowdy because of that. So they were just getting even louder. I'm like, oh, this is a fucking shit show.
That's terrible.
I was just like, oh man, this is bad. Like, I'm not the type of person that's going to be confrontational and be like, shut the fuck up, man. Like I said, it doesn't really solve anything. Usually you can get the theater staff and they'll kind of just be like, oh fuck, and go in and do it. I've been in that position where people bitch to me as a theater manager, and I'm like, it's not fun to go in and tell people to shut the hell up. But I mean, you're going to a movie theater. Like, I feel like that's reasonably expected of you. I wish I had an Alamo Draft House type theater where literally they would kick your ass out and not refund you. Unfortunately, the big theater chains will give you your money back. I think that's backwards in the logic, but anyway.
Wait, if you kick somebody out of a movie, you give them their money back?
Yep.
Wow.
Unless you go to the Alamo Draft House or,
They say, fuck you, you're a dick. We're not giving you your money back.
Like Sunray, back in Jacksonville, we went a couple times. That's kind of like an Alamo Draft House type experience where like, hey, don't talk or you're fucking gone. Boom. Like, yeah, that's a great policy. That should be standard.
Right?
Don't look at your phone or you're gone. Yeah. Okay.
My front right corner
sense.
was loud. But not, I mean, my theater was packed. And I think, there was, I think it was probably slightly more than a reasonable reaction. Clapping, cheering when things happened, that sort of thing. But I mean, it was okay. It was definitely manageable. It didn't detract from my experience. It sounded like you had a pretty terrible experience, man.
Yeah, it was not fun. Like I said, I think that it did hold back my overall experience, which I think is disappointing because, I don't know, I'd be curious to revisit it, to see if actually being able to properly hear things and watch things would make a difference, as you might expect it would. I don't know that I'll revisit it in theaters because
no, I mean,
I don't know that I want to duplicate that, but
I think it's a little bit of a long movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that
it's probably 20 minutes too long, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a long, quote unquote, long movie, but I think that it's just I think that there's a lot of story threads that didn't need to be there or were kind of left hanging, and because there was a general lack of resolution for him, it kind of felt like it was like why was that in there?
We'll have to get into that. Say that as a bookmark.
Okay, bookmarking that. Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. And I think that goes back to kind of my just general thoughts that it should have echoed the original's simplicity of its structure. Like it went in a different direction, and that's a good thing to do. But then it kind of just it was almost too much going on, I thought.
Right.
Where
I could agree with that.
It would have benefited from not necessarily doing the same thing as what 1978 did, because that's boring.
Just refine what you want to cover.
Yeah, I think that there's a way to cull down kind of what it did try to do into something a little bit better paced and a little bit more enjoyable. But all in all, I would agree with a lot of kind of your positives. It's really well shot. It's pretty well acted. The score is fucking awesome. As a point of note, if we haven't talked about it already, John Carpenter did the score for the original one, and he came back to do this score.
Did he really?
Which is awesome. So that's
impressive.
I think he might have done it for 2 as well, but I don't know that he's really been that involved with the franchise.
There's some like electronic beats and shit in this one. Kind of like I don't want to say synth pop, but it's kind of like there's one sequence there with Dracula, if you're catching what I'm referencing, and he's running through the yard. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And yeah, man, and it kind of got electronic a little bit in there, and I was like, oh man, I'm totally digging this. Let me listen to this soundtrack, man. It's good.
Yeah, it is up on Spotify. I've listened to it a little bit already, so yeah.
Yeah, so, anyways, you can continue. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's I would say more or less all I really have to say on the movie in terms of non-spoilers. There's definitely a lot that we can get into in spoilers, but before we get there, would you like to issue a recommendation for our listeners of how they should see this movie?
Yeah, no, totally. Totally go see it in theaters. For sure. I think it's still... I think it'll have legs for a little bit. At least that's my projection, at least for the entire month of October. So I think you could probably avoid some of Colton's crowds and go see it a little bit later on. But definitely go see it in theaters. Just try to get in the spirits of Halloween by watching Halloween (2018). I think you'll have a good time with it. I think it's an enjoyable movie. That's what I say.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of two minds on this one myself, because I think that this isn't a perfect film, as basically every film is, but I think that it's a movie for me that's on the cusp of being really quite good, but it somewhat misses that mark for me in the sense that, yeah, it's again, it's good but not great. I think that if you think that you can capture a theater audience that's not going to be a bunch of dipshits, then you could probably get away with a theater viewing of this. And I think especially in the Halloween spirit, like I think that under the right circumstances, this could be a really, really enjoyable movie to watch in theaters. For me, it wasn't. So that kind of colors my
my experience was I left a wedding when I went and saw this movie. And as you could probably expect, I did not drive to this movie because I was slightly inebriated. And
Responsible.
Yeah, and I had somebody drive me there, and she I think she thought the movie was a little long, but I think both of us had a really good time watching the movie. But like I said, I was slightly inebriated when I went and saw it, and I think that maybe contributed to those circumstances that you're talking about, where it is an enjoyable experience. But I don't know, man. I think it's what are you gonna watch? Listen, here's your options. It's Halloween, or it's October 2018. Your options: Venom, and it's Halloween. What are you gonna go watch in theaters?
I'm gonna go watch A Star Is Born, First Man and Bad Times at the El Royale for Halloween.
Maybe El Royale. Maybe that's Halloween-esque.
Yeah,
movie.
no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, obviously there's an obvious thematic bent to watching Halloween around the Halloween season. So. Yeah. Again, I think that under the ideal circumstances, this is probably good as a theater recommendation, but I feel like in good faith, I cannot recommend it as a theater experience. So I'll go ahead and say, wait for the Blu-ray on this one. But yeah, I mean, if you're feeling it, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with seeing this movie in the theater. I think you'll enjoy yourself, even if maybe you do take issue with some of the things that we're taking issue on. At least I'm taking issue on, and we'll get into that shortly. So I think it might be a good time to get in on that. So would you like to do some spoilers?
Yeah, let's do spoilers, man.
Okay. Full spoilers for Halloween (2018). Thought I wouldn't bring it back.
Welcome to the spoiler section.
But I did. So we could probably just bounce around a little bit with this. I enjoyed that this movie was definitely a much more brutal take than the first one. And I think that is largely owed to just advances like technology from the 40 years that had advanced since the first one was made. I mean, like there's some pretty dark fucking shit in this movie, and some graphic shit in this movie. And I think part of that too, and we kind of touched on when we talked about the 1978 one, is that, like pretty much that whole movie is kind of like Michael Myers just kind of like stalking Laurie. And then I think in this one, it's a little bit less about like it does kind of eventually turn into, the Michael Myers versus Laurie confrontation, but it's mostly just like Michael escaping, and it's just like
Michael's fucking out, and he's
like he's just like I got out. All right, time to start killing people, and like there's just he's just killing randos. It's not like there's doesn't seem like there's a specific mission set that he's following. It's just like, this is what I do, and so we kind of track him literally just what does Michael Myers do when he escapes? He comes upon the truck after, that comes up onto the crashed bus. Yeah. And then there's the fucking dancing kid that's driving the truck, and we pretty much see right away that like Michael Myers is just like, I'll fucking kill kids, I don't care. And like that's I
thought he was going to kill that little baby too in the crib.
He didn't kill the baby, so he's got somewhat of a code. He's just like, we're supporting that, maybe, I don't know.
But he is ultimate evil, and he does not kill. He I don't know. Maybe he just turns a blind eye to the little babies because they're innocent.
It's an interesting kind of story choice for them, because there's definitely that element when you hear the baby crying, you're like, oh my, no.
He's going to cut that baby down.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, like, can you, like, he already killed probably 10-year-old kid. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah, that kid shot that fucking old man.
Well, maybe that old man should have been shot in the head earlier. It would have prevented a lot of trouble. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. It's true.
But moreover, I don't know if there's anything worse than killing kids, but there's some pretty, like I said, there's definitely some really dark shit in this. I mean, can we talk about maybe the jack-o'-lantern cop that we get? And I guess when he arrives at Laurie's house, and the husband goes out to like look at like, hey, like, what do like, what's going on, guys? Like, when he goes to talk to the cops, he sees the two cops. Like, I think one guy's just been like fucking, is like his head smashed or whatever. And then the other, like, one of the cops is like his face is like literally like lit like a jack-o'-lantern, which I don't know if there's like a flashlight like shoved up his like esophagus or some shit, or that's like causing that or whatever. But like some pretty fucking brutal shit.
I didn't catch that. I mean, I saw the dead cop, but I didn't catch the lighting effect or whatever that you're talking about. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I tell you what was brutal though was how about that incredibly long one shot and maybe it wasn't a one shot. That one wasn't a one. No, it was a one shot. It was the one shot where the lady's putting down the blinds and she gets stabbed through the throat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was pretty. That was a really all in the reflection in the glass. I thought that was fucking so cool.
Yeah, that was good. And then there's also the literal head smash of
the fucking doctor
stomping on a head. Yeah, that was.
You know how strong my whole thing was. You know, he kicked the cop car, like he kicked his way out of the cop car, and then he smashes that dude's head. You know how
like I feel like there's definitely got to be an inhuman level of strength to Michael Myers. Like there's definitely a even if it's not overtly supernatural, there's something going on there, because I don't think any mere mortal man possesses that type of strength to just literally
40 years in prison and never missing leg day gives you the strength.
I mean, like that's probably the only explanation, is that he just spends like 23 out of 24 hours just getting swole.
just squats. That's all he did was squats.
Because that head got smashed like a fucking pumpkin would be.
Yeah, I mean, it exploded. Oh, that was I laughed when that happened. How about that little black kid? I thought he was pretty awesome.
That kid was amazing. And like, I think there's moments of this movie that just feel like straight up like Eastbound and Down type, like Danny McBride type humor, right? You know?
I wouldn't be up this late cleaning my nasty fucking toenails if you were a good babysitter.
Yeah, that kid was awesome. Apparently, I'll just add I'll add my little fun fact here. Apparently, that kid was a late-minute replacement for another actor that was supposed to be part of it, and so basically, all the scenes that they shot with the kid and the babysitter were all basically just like improvised. I think the director, David Gordon Green, said that they have like an hour and a half of footage of just those two just, bantering back and forth, and he said that he's going to try to include a lot of that on like the Blu-ray and stuff like that, which...
That's awesome.
They definitely, they were really awesome together. As a side note, that babysitter...
She was pretty cool.
Was a very cool individual. And apparently she's in The Runaways. She's one of the main characters on The Runaways, Marvel's The Runaways on Hulu. So I might have a reason. I might have a reason to watch that alongside my CW rewatch.
Holy shit! You're gonna shoot yourself.
But yeah, no, that kid was fucking hilarious, and I enjoy that the kid just fucking straight bailed as soon as like shit hit the fan.
Yeah, no, he was not getting killed. You go in there, you're gonna get killed too.
He sent the boyfriend out there. It's just like, yeah, you go up there, fuck this, I'm out. Like that was pretty awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed him, but I mean, the kid literally just straight disappeared from the movie,
which was kind of, I don't want to see him get killed, but at the same time, you maybe get questioned by the cops or something. He just
like some sort of resolution.
That's it.
Like, and that wasn't the only plot line for me that like just had no resolution. Like,
how about the dick boyfriend?
Right, like that dude just literally disappears. Like that dude is prime candidate for like horror fucking, movie, like to get like fucking eviscerated.
That's what I was hoping for.
Like that dude deserved everything that should have been coming for him, but then nothing happened. Like it was just like.
It was the friend. It was the nice friend.
Well, they wrote some like lame excuse, like I'm gonna throw your fucking cell phone in cheese or whatever the fuck he even threw it in. Whatever, some bowl of some shit, and it's just like, why didn't your phone just die? Like that's a thing that happens. Is like phones just die. I mean, it's plot convenient, but like, I feel like I would accept that more than just like dick boyfriend. Just like I'm gonna throw it in this bowl of shit. Like what? No one does that. But.
The guy was an asshole, and I leaned over to Brittany. I said, "Brittany, this guy's gonna get fucking. He's just gonna get destroyed."
But I think that's literally the last time you see him. Yeah, it is. His the friend gets fucking owned on the fence. But yeah, it's just like I felt like that was kind of odd. Like I that almost to me felt like maybe scenes were cut. Possibly.
Yeah, like maybe we'll stick Myers to come in the school dance and murder some kids. but maybe that doesn't look right.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. It seemed like maybe scenes were trying, like maybe they tried to tighten the overall movie, and then it kind of just lost a little bit here and there. Otherwise, it just seems to me like a big oversight. And another one is the fucking cowboy cop, whatever he is. Dude's like in there, like I'm gonna solve this shit, and he's just gone from the movie, like never referenced again. Like I'm just like, it's just weird to include so many kind of characters and like plots that just kind of just drop unceremoniously, and like it's not a bad thing. I mean, like if I caught wind of Michael Myers being out in town, I'd just fucking bail too. But it seems weird to kind of include those characters and then just do nothing with them. But,
yeah. How about when Laurie pulls up into the neighborhood, just fucking pulls out her gun? You know what I'm talking about? She's driving away or whatever, and then she hears on the police scanner that there's something going on in the street, so she flips a Yui, and she fucking parks her car in the middle of the road, just hops out with her gun, just swinging it around. Everybody watch out! And she almost runs over kids and shit when she's pulling in the neighborhood. Laurie's fucking crazy in this movie.
Yeah, dude, Laurie is pretty fucking unhinged. And I thought that was one of the most interesting story beats to this movie, was that like Laurie is severely fucked up by the events of Halloween (1978). I thought that was one of the strongest kind of inclusions here, and the way that kind of filtered through the subsequent generations. You know, she has a daughter. You know, we see kind of bits of like her daughter like getting this kind of training to be prepared for incidents that obviously Laurie was not prepared for when Michael Myers, you know, initially attacked her. And the granddaughter too. Like I really enjoyed that idea of like these three generations of women that had been influenced by this initial attack. I thought that was really, really strong, and I thought it was pretty well acted on all three parts too. I enjoyed a lot of them, and I enjoyed kind of that approach to the characterization for Laurie. I think that's where this movie's strong suit is kind of focusing on that and blending it with kind of the elements of just, you know, what you'd expect out of a slasher film.
Right.
But I think maybe it might be a good time to talk about where this movie kind of just goes off the fucking rails. At least for me. And that was the inclusion of the doctor character and the quote unquote twist that they tried with this character.
Where he's like really the fucking bad guy. Well, they're not the bad guy. They're both bad guys, but
yeah, you know, it's not even so much that the doctor was. I mean, it's implied that the doctor was the reason that the bus crashed, that Michael escaped, and that's all well and good. And he's like, "Yo, I want to conduct this experiment. I want to see Michael in his natural environment." Blah 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 blah.
But see, you know, it was implied. I thought the same thing, but then he talks about whenever he kills that cop. He talks about how this is how you must feel, Michael. I understand now. I think I understand how you feel. So it made me question on whether or not he was the one that did the bus.
Well, I don't know that there's any other real rational explanation for why
Michael breaking out the bus
crashed and why he survived that initial encounter, other than he was responsible. So I don't know. I mean, again, had a distracted experience watching it, so I might have missed out on some subtleties, perhaps. But I just felt like that whole twist, and then basically the 2 minutes that it takes for them to basically say, "Nah, fuck that," you know, in regard to the twist, I was just like, this whole plot is unnecessary, and it takes away from the movie for me. And like it's just like, I honestly think that alone is enough for me to like take this movie down from like really, 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 really enjoyable to just like, you were so close. You almost cracked the code, but you really fucked it here. You really fucked it. Like, even though they kind of dispatched that whole idea very quickly, it was just like, just the simple inclusion of it really for me was just like, oh my God, like, come on. That was a total
misstep, right?
Like, it felt like a Halloween 5 kind of move or something like that. Like a mid, you know, like a 34th entry type kind of move where it was just like, this, like, all right, you've ran out of ideas, haven't you?
Well, Michael fucks him up.
He does fuck him up, and that's kind of what I mean. It's just like, you know, they have this character as the new Loomis, like fucking Laurie literally calls him the new Loomis, and I'm just like, you didn't need this type of character. You already covered all that ground in the original. Like, Like, this is just straight retread, and then they're like, well, we realized that we're retreading too much, so let's do something else. And then they just, instead of doing something that made sense, they just did something incredibly stupid that just felt out of place. I just felt like they could have scrapped the whole character. They could have scrapped that whole angle. Like, just let Michael be pure evil. Just let him fucking... Like, there's nothing wrong with him breaking out somehow and then just going on this spree.
He obviously has plenty. He can kick his way out of a cop car and smash heads like pumpkins with his feet.
Yeah.
Just let him break out.
Right, yeah. And I just kind of felt like, there's this whole point. Like, I felt like Michael wasn't specifically targeting Laurie until Laurie kind of came into his purview. And I think that's fine. Like, I think you can still do that without kind of this whole idea of the Doctor setting them up to have this encounter 40 years later. Like, I think that if there's... Like Laurie is the type of character that she, within this movie, seeks out Michael as soon as she knows that he escapes, tries to kill him. Like, that's all you need. Like, that's literally all the setup you need. Like, Michael just goes on this murder spree for a while, and then Laurie catches up to him and tries to shoot him, and then Michael's like, oh, fuck, it's Laurie. Like, shit, then he kind of reframes and says, that's my target again. Like, I think you could simplify this movie in that regard, and it just makes so much more sense, and I just think it works much more elegantly. But so it sucks to me that's just, for me, that's just like a missed opportunity. I am glad that. So I don't know if you felt the same way, but I had this initial inclination when the Doctor put the mask on, that I was just like, oh my God, they're not going to do this whole thing where Michael's actually dead and the Doctor is now the bad guy for the third act, because I would have fucking straight up lost it. There was a moment where I was just like, oh no. I said the same.
What are they doing? What are they doing? He's got a fucking broken arm. He can't be a Michael Myers. He's an old fucking man. No way.
I was like, if they do that, I'm straight fucking done. Like, that takes it from like half of an enjoyable movie to just absolute dog shit. So like I said, they seems like they kind of tried to maybe put that out there as an idea, and then like, nah, JK lol. Like 2 minutes later, I'm just like, well, then what was the point? What was the point of any of that? Other than just to waste my time?
I don't know if I've seen all of the Michael Myers. Or all of the Halloweens.
There's a lot of them.
I know I've talked about how I'm pretty familiar with them, and I'm pretty familiar with them. But did they ever do any of that in any of the other ones?
I don't. I honestly don't know.
I can't remember.
I know they did stuff like, they kind of lampshaded in this movie of Laurie being Michael's sister. I think that was introduced in Halloween 2, and that recurred through all of the movies subsequently, and also in the Rob Zombie remakes. But yeah, no, I don't know that they did anything quite along those lines, but I think
with
I think that the Loomis character was in most of the Halloween sequels as well, but I honestly don't recall exactly what his role was within those movies.
Because what I found, I enjoyed the callbacks to the original movie, like when Laurie gets thrown out the window and she's missing. That was
that was fucking awesome. It was just a straight role reversal. Like, that was really cool.
Yeah,
I thought that was
a couple of
really,
other ones
really
too.
strong.
I think, weren't there?
Yeah, I remember. There's her granddaughter's in class, and she looks out the window and just sees like Laurie and just like straight stalking her like Michael was back in the day. I thought that was good. There might have been a couple others.
There was a handful. The fucking guy, the people in the house. So the couple that was making out on the couch.
Yeah, that was definitely right. And there's a couple, and again, like more kind of role reversals. I think. I think when Laurie is looking for Michael in the third act, she like starts looking in the closet, which is where she hid. Right. But he's not in there. But there's just a lot of things like where there's a clear causal connection between the two, which I really enjoyed. Like, this to me felt like a really, really strong sequel overall, like in terms of connecting the lore. Like, it felt really like there was a clear reverence for like the original material, and like I felt like it wasn't too much trying to do the exact same thing, but it was trying to build on that. And like I said, I think it just kind of faltered when it tried to build in certain ways. But I think that it didn't feel like a carbon copy, I wouldn't say at all.
No, it felt like very much like an extension, I thought.
Like, it felt like a nice evolution of how things might have progressed. Like, there was a lot of like Like even what you're saying, like, you know, the babysitters and stuff like that, like just the actual updating of it, like it felt like kind of like a modernized, you know, take on the events of that one. And I felt like that was really cool to kind of see, like, oh, this is the parentheses 2018 version of how Michael Myers, you know, would
right
go about doing things, and how people would act in that world in which, you know, Michael Myers is out on the loose. I enjoyed that aspect of it a lot. I thought that was pretty well handled. So, and I mean, it is definitely, there's a lot of things that I think are definitely kind of, you know, good references. I think like Laurie calls Michael Myers the Shape, kind of throughout the movie, which is, I don't know if you know this, but, and I didn't know this because I've done some research, you know, not to toot my own horn prior to recording this episode of. So in the credits for the original movie, Halloween, parentheses 1978, for those confused about what the original movie is, the actor that plays Michael Myers is credited as the Shape. Like, he's not credited as Michael Myers; he's credited as the Shape.
Interesting.
And that is the actor Nick Castle, who, interestingly enough, so he physically portrayed Michael Myers in the 1978 film. He did not do the one scene in which he's unmasked towards the end of the movie. That was another actor,
right.
But he actually portrayed Michael Myers,
the Shape of Michael
movie.
Myers, right? Okay.
Yeah, the same actor played him 40 years later. Like, that's pretty incredible continuity right there.
Sure.
I think there was a stunt actor that did part of it too. As you know, granted, he's obviously an older guy now, so that's kind of a logistical concern there. But it's cool to see that you know, respect for the original and the attempt to create that continuity between the films. I genuinely appreciated that. What'd you think about the ending
with the trap house?
Yeah, just the whole third act. You know, kind of got this confrontation between Laurie and Michael that ends with.
I enjoyed the I can't do it, mm-hmm. Mom, help me. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Boom. I enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty fucking good.
Did you enjoy Happy Halloween, Michael? just fuck you moment.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Yeah,
good.
It was kind of a 1-2 punch between Judy Greer and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I enjoyed the tense moment when she's sweeping through the house. Thought that was pretty good. Like, where the fuck's he at? Where's he at? My front corner lost their shit when Laurie's daughter's husband got killed. They really enjoyed that for some reason.
Well, he got peanut butter on his penis, as you know. So
yeah, he did get peanut butter on his penis. But that was pretty funny. Ow! Got peanut butter on my penis.
How does one even do that? I don't understand.
That's funny. I enjoyed that guy. You know, he told Laurie, "You're safe in my house. I know jujitsu. It's okay. Put that gun down. Laurie will fuck him up. He doesn't even know." But yeah,
he was definitely gonna die. There was no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, well, I wanted that shithead to die, but that never happened.
Yeah, he just disappeared. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I thought the third act was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I agree with you about that doctor. The doctor was kind of it was just an added storyline in there that you didn't need. But I think what the strong points of the movie far outshined without the doctor character, I don't get the exploding pumpkin head, you know?
It's true. You probably could have just moved that death to another character, like
That's
say
true.
the shitty boyfriend. Like, that would have been satisfying, right?
That would have been satisfying. No, absolutely. But I don't know. You know, it's definitely, I'm not going to tell you that it's not a weakness, because it most definitely is, and I think that's probably the biggest shortcking in the movie. I think, in my opinion.
For me, it's definitely the biggest blight on this film. They said it takes a lot away from me, of just like, we were this close, we were on the verge of greatness.
It's a big misstep. It is, but I think what the film does really good is Laurie, so many years after, I guess 40 years, right? Laurie, 40 years after her assault, the ripples are still felt through her family, and now you see her become the fucking stalker for the first half of the movie, and she stalks him all the way to this fucking house and traps him in there and fucking murders his ass. A lot of way. I mean, it's fucking cool.
Or does she?
Or does she? It's true. He's in a basement of a house burning up.
I didn't see a body in the last few shots personally.
It's true. It's true. What did she block him in there with? Were those bars?
Yeah, look like spikes or bars or something like that. I don't know. She had that whole fucking place booby trapped. So
it's pretty crazy.
You don't fuck with 60-plus-year-old Laurie Strode because she's got her shit in order.
She does.
I mean, in terms of booby trapping her place, in terms of the mental shit, I don't think she has that in order at all. But understandable. She did have all her friends killed, when she was very young. So that's probably pretty traumatic.
Pretty cray. But that was pretty good. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, would you like to see a sequel to this movie? Do you want to see Halloween 2020? Halloween parentheses 2020?
Yeah, what was up with that knife at the very end there with her daughter holding the knife? Do you think her daughter is going to be fucked up and becoming the next Michael Myers?
I wondered about that. Like, has the evil been transferred or some shit like that? But I was just like, please don't do that. I think that would be very schlocky. So I don't. I think it's maybe more emblematic of the trauma that has been transferred rather than the evil itself. So, I think that maybe there's a version of that character in 30, 40 years that's pretty fucked up by this experience. Again, rightfully so. But I don't know. Weirdly enough. I don't know if it's weirdly enough, actually, but I think that this 1978 and 2018 could work together as a really strong 1-2 punch. And I think that the way that they framed the story, I think there's a limit to how many times you can kind of take this sort of approach. And it's a slasher genre, obviously. It's par for the course to make 900 entries in your franchise and run it into the ground. But I would be fine if this movie just kind of stood as it is. I mean, it made fucking crazy amounts of money for the budget, and obviously that's not going to happen. It's gonna get a sequel. It's just a matter of time. But I don't know. I feel like I feel like it could stand on its own. I feel like it could stand on its own as a companion,
right,
to the 1978 film. Yeah. Like. So I don't know. I mean, I'll probably go see a sequel, but I just don't think it needs one personally.
Right. I definitely would agree with you. I think it's a pretty complete deal, but like you said, it's fucking slasher horror movies, man. Wouldn't it be cool to have a new slasher IP? Like, wouldn't that be cool to make a new thing?
New things. Are you allowed to do that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it seems like the new.
Is it legal
to have new things? Legal.
I would make it legal. I would be down with kind of a new approach to it. I don't, it's one of those things, like, it's probably not going to make $80 million opening weekend if it's a new thing. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason you couldn't.
I think the only reason this did as good as it did is because there was such a long hiatus between a release. You know what I mean?
Well, certainly between good entries. I mean, it's been 40
just
years. Under a decade since. Well, no, I mean, between good entries, yeah,
right.
No, I mean, there's been countless entries into the Halloween franchise, but none that seemed to be made with the kind of earnestness that I think went into making this movie. Most of them felt like cash grabs. Somewhat I mean, I think that the Rob Zombie remake was made with earnestness. I just don't think it was a strong approach to the material. I think the remake itself is okay. But
I haven't watched it in a long time.
To it is just straight dog shit, like embarrassing shit. So I don't know. Yeah, but there's definitely obviously the anticipation for this movie was palpable, and obviously the decision to make this movie in the manner that they did, and all the other factors that went into it, paid off. So hats off to
Danny McBride and David Gordon Green.
David Gordon Green and company. Yeah, I mean, weird fucking combination to make this movie. We talked about it before, but
they did a good job.
I think they did a good job overall. Yeah, I'd agree. So
that's that.
That's Halloween parentheses 2018. All right, let's jump into what we've been up to lately. So we're going to catch up, as we mentioned on our last episode, with a discussion of Marvel's Spider-Man, the PlayStation 4 game. So I'm going to go ahead and say full spoilers for Spider-Man PS4, just for anyone that plays video games, that cares about this sort of thing. Like, we'll time code this, skip around it if you need to, but it's been out for close to a month now. I think the DLC literally drops tomorrow, the first DLC pack, I should say. So it's been out for a good while now, so don't give us too much shit for this. So with that, full spoilers for Spider-Man PlayStation 4. Yeah, we don't need to get too crazy with this, but I did want to talk about it a little bit. I think I might have rushed you a little bit into finishing the storyline. I apologize if I kind of did that, but I did want to talk about it on this episode because we're gonna have a lot of shit to talk about on our next episode. But yeah, man, what a fucking great game, right?
Yeah, I cried. It was so fucking good.
I had a tear. I did not expect fucking Aunt May to die. That was some pretty hard shit. And like there was it was a really touching moment between Peter and Octavius at the end, but then it was just kind of like that,
Aunt May,
followed by him sacrificing, his personal happiness
in this game.
Yeah,
even when Miles Morales' dad dies too.
Yeah, that was
fucking hard too, man.
Yeah, that one was, for me, it was like I kind of saw that coming. Like I was just like, I kind of got this feeling, but I 100% did not expect Aunt May to die. So I was just kind of like, whoa, like that's a fucking
and that was
storytelling
really sad. It was
decision.
very well acted.
Yeah. The voice acting was phenomenal, and this has got to be one of my favorite interpretations of the Spider-Man mythos that I've encountered in recent memory. Like I think
really
that
fucking good.
It's a really cool spin on just and there's a lot of different elements that they brought into this, and they had an advantage of you couldn't make this movie, or you couldn't make this game itself into a movie because there's just too much going on. It's too long. You'd have to strip a lot of the elements to make it work. But they did, a broken up Peter and MJ, and then the reconciliation, Peter's relationship with Octavius, with Aunt May, and Mr. Negative kind of origins, and Norman Osborn is kind of this character in the background, what's going on with him? He's a bit of a fucking asshole, and maybe there's a little bit more something going on with him. There's a backstory with Harry, and Miles is going to be Spider-Man. There's just a ridiculous amount of story elements that
and it's done so well.
It's done really well, and I think that's kind of the unique trait of the medium, is that they can make something like this and make it feel satisfying. Because again, if you tried to a fucking Sinister Six, if you tried to cram all those elements into a 3-hour film, which you wouldn't make a 3-hour Spider-Man film, that's just not feasible. But even if you tried to do that, you just wouldn't be able to do it. And
too condensed. It would need to be a show or something.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe an animated show, you could do it over the span of 13 episodes, maybe. But even still, there's just a lot going on here, and it's just all really just well told. Man.
It was an interesting decision to have Spider-Man already arrest these people. You know what I mean? And
This is a Spider-Man that's several years into his career, and has had encounters with a lot of these villains. And was it the Halloween thing where someone's dressed up as the Lizard, someone's dressed up as Mysterio and stuff like that. So obviously he's had encounters with these villains too. So there's a lot of history, but then they do leave kind of the threads open of there's certain villains that he hasn't encountered. Clearly there has not been a Green Goblin yet, which for a Spider-Man that's several years into his career to not basically encounter his archenemy, that's a pretty bold storytelling decision. It's clearly not been a Venom. Although, you got something to say?
Yeah, that post-credit scene, he's floating in the green shit, so I thought maybe it was going to be a Green Goblin. But then there was like he's floating inside this web, and what's it alluding to? Is it alluding to Venom?
I don't know. Yeah, it definitely seemed very symbiote-esque, I would say. So my thoughts on it is that, well, I think that there's like a green formula that he seems to be kind of suspended in along with that, and that definitely seems to be like kind of like the goblin formula or whatever, the equivalent is in this universe. But I think that, and you have to look at the fact that like there's like 40 costumes that you can unlock in the game, and none of those is the symbiote costume. Like,
it's true.
Clearly, there's an idea to like that's too big of a thing to do as just like a throwaway costume. Like that's a big thing that we could maybe do in a future. So I think that like maybe Norman either has possession of like this alien symbiote, or it's closer to something like the Ultimate Universe, where I think the symbiote is like something that was developed in a lab. I don't know if it was by Oscorp specifically. I think it was.
Is that what happens?
I think it might have been between Peter and Eddie Brock, who's less of like a jock reporter and more just like a kind of fellow scientist like Peter was in the Ultimate Universe. So maybe it's a spin on that, because this is a game that kind of takes on different elements. It's not like, oh, we got to keep everything 100% consistent with the 616 canon, or like this is the Ultimate Universe. Like it's just kind of just like, let's take elements that we like from all the different interpretations of this Spider-Man story and like
let's make a new
do
story.
our own thing.
Right.
Like it feels very much like its own continuity. And I think there's an idea to have this like Marvel game continuity. I think that's kind of something they alluded to.
I heard that they're setting the precedents for new Marvel games. Is like
right.
They're setting a template.
I know Crystal Dynamics, the Tomb Raider devs, are doing an Avengers game, and there's an Avengers Tower in this game. And there's a lot of other Marvel references in this game. You see Nelson and Murdoch. You see there's a fucking statue of Lockjaw. I don't know if you saw that from the Humans, the big fucking dog.
For real?
Yeah, seriously. It was one of the last. It's a secret photo op. It's one of the last ones I found. And there's a lot of other like Rand corporations in here, Alias Investigations. Like there's obviously like the implication of this big Marvel universe within this game. And so I think that if they tried to, even if it's spread amongst different developers, if they tried to craft this like MCU equivalent version in the games universe where they're able to do like more like cool shit, like maybe there's an Iron Fist that's not a total jackass that actually wears an Iron Fist costume, like fuck man, that'd be pretty cool.
Fucking correct. Yeah, that'd be so awesome.
But like there's so much potential like beyond just Spider-Man. Like they could literally take this gameplay formula and slap it onto different characters. Like I would fucking die if they made a Daredevil game in the style of this. I would fucking die. I'm serious. Like there's so much potential. I mean, yeah.
I think an Iron Fist game would be pretty fucking awesome.
Iron Fist would fit in perfectly, especially if they leaned into the actual elements that they should lean into in making like an Iron Fist adaptation. But
and we know a Punisher game would work.
Yeah, Punisher games have worked in the past, though, so I will give it. To be fair, Spider-Man games have worked in the past too.
It's true.
The PS1 game, Spider-Man 2.
I always enjoyed
the movie
those.
adaptation. So yeah, it's yeah. I mean, but this is kind of like the modernization and refinement of all those ideas. Like just really, really, and like this is easily the most cinematic Spider-Man or superhero game for that matter, I would say. I mean, even more so than Arkham, which obviously there's a very heavy Arkham Asylum inspiration that this game wears on its sleeve in terms of its combat, but I think that
the story here is far superior.
This one definitely, felt like, I mean, like this had like that Sony approach to like cinematic storytelling, The Last of Us and God of War, and games of that ilk of just like really, really impactful storytelling, and you do it with the fucking Spider-Man license. Like, Jesus, like that's, for me, that's like the sweet spot of like things that I already like coupled with things that I already like. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't get better than that,
It's true. It was a very good experience.
So,
what did you? What costume did you get for unlocking everything, for getting a platinum or whatever?
I don't know if I got it for unlocking everything. I know there's the undies outfit. I think you get when you beat the game. Did you get that?
I did not get the undies thing.
I don't know what the criteria is for that, but I did. So I got the platinum for this. which is, all the challenges, all the crimes and all that, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
All the costumes unlocked. It's not that hard to get the platinum. It's just, putting the time in.
Right.
Yeah. The only thing that was a bit of a pain in the ass, and it's not actually trophy related, is all the secret photo ops. Just 50 of them.
Oh my gosh.
When you get to level 50, you get a thing you can equip on your suit that has the photo ops show up on your mini map. It doesn't show up on the full map, but when you come nearby it, it'll show up on there.
Right.
And there's 50 of those. When you do that, you get the Empire State outfit, which is like just wearing an Empire State University shirt with a Spidey mask and like pants on. So I was like, that was all kind of lame. It was like a lot of the late suits were kind of lame, except for the Antioch suit, which was part of the story.
It was pretty fucking rad power up too, man.
That was a pretty dope outfit, I thought. But
what was up with that? Yeah, did you get the damaged Spider-Man face straight out of fucking Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man?
We're parts of the face were peeled away. But I'd say they don't even have the excuse of having to get Tobey Maguire some FaceTime in here. It was just like straight up like, yeah. Well, I mean, there was a lot of shades of Spider-Man 2, especially like I felt like with the development of Octavius. I mean, I pretty much guessed from the beginning, as soon as Octavius was introduced as a supporting character, like, you don't introduce Dr. Octavius without like it building to this concept of Dr. Octopus. Like maybe it could have been sequel bait at the end, but I just guessed that was kind of where it was going to go within this game.
And it was built so organically and real too. It's just the way they
and it worked really well. Like and even like Mr. Negative, like there was a lot of personal connection that was surprising to me between him and Aunt May and all that. Like that made Lee as kind of a more than just like a villainous character. Like there were just villainous characters, especially towards the third act when shit hits the fan. You just get like, here's the Rhino, here's Scorpion, here's Electro and the Vulture, and like those guys were just like, here's people that you fought in the past that haven't been totally shown to you within this game, and they're just kind of boss battles for the most part towards the end, but it's all pretty fun. So
yeah, they doubled up on those boss fights. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Did you feel rushed? Did it? I don't. I mean, did it?
No, to be honest with you, thematically with the story and everything else, it actually kind of felt pretty organic. World's going to shit. All these people just broke out of prison. I need to fucking hurry. Fucking Spider-Man's tired. I'm tired. Gotta put these people back in fucking prison. Holy shit, Doc Ock's running around with Harry Osborn. You know what I mean? Just kind of boom, 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 boom. And at one point he's like, "Oh, I gotta rest. I should probably scan the city." I'm like, "No, fuck that. I gotta wait for something. I gotta wait for a story to pop up." Yeah. So no, it didn't feel rushed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because like I said, shit really does hit the fan in that third act. It was just fucking nonsense trying to traverse the map.
Yeah, and then when I learned how to swing really fucking quick. Just trying to navigate to each of the story missions real quick, and everybody's shooting at you and everything else. So I thought it felt pretty. Finish it so we can record tonight. It felt okay. I didn't feel rushed or anything.
Okay, good. I wanted to talk about it because I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about on the episode, and as I say that, we're definitely running longer than I anticipated for this particular episode. But
well, we can wrap it up, man, because
nothing new there. But
everything I've been doing is in preparation of our bonus or for our next episode, for our Patreon episode.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, all right. Well, fair enough. Suffice it to say that. Spider-Man PS4 is a fucking phenomenal game, and
highly recommend it.
I think we can both highly recommend that anyone that owns a PS4 owes it to themselves to play the game, whether or not they care about whether or not they care about Spider-Man. I think that the mechanics alone justify it, and if you like Spider-Man in general, like again, this is one of the best takes I've seen on it. Like just all the characters, MJ is fucking amazing in this. Peter is just great in this, and all the supporting characters are great. Yuri
I thought the shittiest part of the whole game, if we're gonna be honest, were those. I did enjoy the Mary Jane
You're talking about like the stealth kind of missions.
I did not enjoy
for
the stealth
for any of the
missions.
characters.
Except
Yeah,
I did enjoy
kind
the
of a
one where she worked with Spider-Man and you got to like tell Spider-Man to pick up people. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a break in the action. Like you enjoy those combat mechanics, and then it strips that away from you, and you're just like, yeah. I'd agree with that. Yeah, but Miles won't be fucking stealthing around come Spider-Man 2.
That's true. That's true. And either will Mary Jane, because when she breaks into Harry's or Norman's fucking penthouse. And you get that, you can get that fucking taser, dude. I was fucking people up. I didn't even bother sneaking. I just run up on people. I throw a sensor and run up and tase them.
Yeah.
There was nobody left in his penthouse. It was pretty good. Spider-Man gets fucked up, and I die multiple times when Spider-Man's fighting him. But Mary Jane with the taser, I make short work of him.
When's the Mary Jane coming? Mary Jane game coming?
Yeah, right.
So you have not been up to anything else that you would like to discuss at the present moment. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm mostly in a similar boat. I have caught up on The Gifted up till its present episode, which I think is another 2 episodes since we recorded last, and it's fine. It's not as good as the other superhero show that I'm currently watching, which, you know, it's a high bar to clear, but it's fine for network TV. I enjoy it, but other things have taken precedence right now in preparation for our next episode, and soon I need to really get going on what we're going to watch for a bonus episode. So I'll leave it at that. We're running long here, so Spider-Man PS4, get on it, and maybe next episode. I think by the time we record next, it'll be a little bit longer period of time, so we'll almost certainly be up to a few things that we'll have to, report back on.
Right.
So, with that, I will say thank you all for listening to this episode of Watch, Review, Repeat. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. You can support us on Patreon if you are so inclined, again, by going to our website, which is www.watchreviewrepeat.com. If you click the Premium tab and then click the Become a Patron button, that'll get you over to our Patreon page where you can give us a couple dollars a month in order to get all of our bonus episodes ahead of everyone else, all of our regular episodes ahead of everyone else. And there's good things to look forward to. That Halloween bonus episode that we talked about is coming very soon. It might even be coming perhaps around when Halloween is. How much detail can we give on this? I don't want to give too much away from what we're specifically doing, but let's just say that
it's a cultured experience.
It's a cultured experience, yeah. Maybe there's some different aspects to horror that we're going to be talking about. Maybe there's some different eras to horror that we're going to be talking about on this episode. So it's a little bit... I'll give this little tidbit. It's a little bit different from some of the previous episodes we've done in that it's not focused on a single franchise. Again, we're looking more at a genre as a whole and maybe some different approaches to the genre. So... it won't be long before you'll know what we're talking about, and some of it's going to be timely for one reason or another, and some of it will just be, I don't know. You'll just have to wait and find out.
Next episode, though, what are we doing next episode?
Next episode, we are doing what we've more or less alluded to for most of this episode, and that's going to be the Marvel Netflix 2018, all the shows that we have not already covered, which is to say we covered Jessica Jones Season 2, but we have not covered Luke Cage Season 2, we have not covered Iron Fist Season 2, we have not covered Daredevil Season 3, which just dropped less than a week ago. So we're going to do all those in one big episode. We talked about this, I think, already. The show that I was talking about in comparison to The Gifted was Daredevil Season 3. So some slight implications of how I felt about that if you want to put that in context. But I think that'll be it could be another long episode. We've had a trend of doing those recently, but that's a lot of material to cover. It's kind of a throwback in some ways to what we did on our second episode ever, which was, I think, all of the Marvel shows leading up to Defenders. So it's not quite as long as that, but we've gotten even wordier since we began our podcast. We feel a little bit more comfortable to just talk for hours upon hours. So we'll try not to do that. We'll try to keep it relatively on track. But there's a lot of good stuff to cover, and a lot of, in terms of the overall implications for Marvel Netflix, especially with the recent announcements that we talked about in the past couple episodes. There's going to be a lot of interesting topics to explore. So I think it'll be a good episode. I'm really looking forward to A, finishing out the rest of Daredevil season 3, and B, getting into all these episodes of these seasons, that I've been watching over the past couple months between all these 3 shows. So should be fun. Should be interesting.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, until then, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please send those to our Gmail account, which is watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. For announcements for when our Patreon episode will be available, stay tuned to our socials. At WRRPod is our Twitter account. You can like us on Facebook at Watch Review Repeat. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And we will put a pin in it there. Look forward again to our coverage of Marvel Netflix 2018. Until then.
Laters on the Minjay.
Laters on the Minjay.